In the middle of the crowd, Choi arrived at the research lobby. Choi was an S-rank hunter known as the ultimate weapon, so all hunters, including Jinwoo, already knew of him. However, when Choi tried to talk to him, Jinwoo refused, saying he was in a hurry, and disappeared without a trace before Beck could meet him. When Jinwoo went to visit his mother in the hospital, Jinchul came secretly to talk to him. As part of the investigation division, his job was to monitor hunters and punish those who broke the rules. However, he admitted that he would be powerless against an S-rank hunter. Before Jinwoo left, Jinchul mentioned that someone wanted to speak with him, Go Gun-hee, the president of the Hunter Association. Go Gun-hee congratulated Jinwoo on becoming an S-rank hunter and explained the current situation of the association, which lacked strong hunters. He pleaded with Jinwoo to join them, promising a high-ranking position. To convince him further, Go explained that elsewhere, Dong-soo was still recovering. When asked if the man named Sung Il-hwan was really a demon beast, Dong-soo firmly stated that he was a monster. The management was tracking him, but they doubted they could catch someone who had defeated Dong-soo so easily. Dong-soo couldn't accept his loss. Even though Il-hwan had warned him never to bother his family, Dong-soo wasn't afraid and even wanted revenge. For that, he needed a powerful artifact to defeat him. In the hunter world, artifacts refer to high-level equipment that even the most skilled craftsmen today couldn't replicate. Hunters could find them in online auctions, but the prices were too high. Jinwoo couldn't afford them. He could make money by selling the materials he had gathered, but because of his low rank, it would raise suspicion. Therefore, to obtain an entry record for an A-rank portal, he decided to join a mining team. Jinwoo had just joined the mining team. Although he was low-ranked, the team leader didn't mind, as many people like him worked there. Meanwhile, inside the dungeon, the assault team was fighting monsters. They didn't need to exert much effort. With his powerful fire magic, Leader Choi wiped out all the monsters in one strike. Then all the tanks formed a shield to protect the team from the fire bursts. It didn't take long for the assault team to exit the portal. When they exited, all eyes were on Cha Hae-in, the 9th S-rank hunter in the country. As Jinwoo watched her, she sensed his presence. She could feel the strong aura emanating from him. When all the monsters were defeated, it was the miner's turn to work. Because of his overwhelming strength, people doubted whether Jinwoo was really an E-rank. Unlike the others, he never seemed tired while working. While the others were on break, Jinwoo quickly headed to the boss room. He wanted to take this chance to try fighting the boss. However, he didn't get the chance as he was caught by Cha Hae-in. In front of the boss room, Cha Hae-in asked Jinwoo what he was doing there. She told him to step back, as it was the boss's chamber. Responding to her, Jinwoo claimed he was lost and ended up there by accident. Jinwoo thought Cha Hae-in would be difficult to deal with. She didn't even notice his presence until she spoke to him. As Jinwoo returned to the mining area, Cha Hae-in was shocked. Jinwoo didn't have the same scent as other hunters. In fact, she felt his scent was pleasant. She asked if he was a hunter, and when checking his ID, assumed maybe it was because his level was still very low. After that, Jinwoo was allowed to return, with a warning to be more careful inside the dungeon. When he reunited with the mining team, the leader said Jinwoo was lucky to meet Cha Hae-in, while they could only admire her from afar. It seems she didn't like the scent of other hunters because of her unique body condition. Thanks to Jinwoo, the mining job finished more quickly. Not wanting to waste his talent, the leader asked him to continue working there. Jinwoo was happy to hear that, but he couldn't continue because he only happened to have free time. He did agree to help once more in the next raid mission. That night, Cha Hae-in asked someone to gather information about Sung Jinwoo. Choi had made the same request the day before, but they couldn't find anything because the data had been blocked by the association. Learning that made Cha Hae-in even more curious. She had met many hunters before, but it was the first time she encountered someone without a scent. The next day, Jinwoo worked again with the mining team. As usual, he worked diligently, and thanks to him, the mining process was faster. Not long after, Captain Sun Ki-hun from the assault team asked for a replacement porter. However, since most of the mining team was low-ranked, no one dared to volunteer until Jinwoo stepped up. Even though the leader tried to stop him, Jinwoo insisted on helping the assault team as a porter. This time, the portal was much larger than before, but its energy was lower, so it wasn't considered dangerous. Upon entering, Jinwoo had a bad feeling, just like the time with the red portal. To calm him, a member said that all the hunters here, including the captain, were strong. When the monsters approached, the team immediately prepared to fight. Thanks to good teamwork, they fended off the attack and destroyed the monsters with powerful magic. Sun Ki-hun couldn't understand why there were hyenas, low-tier monsters, in an A-level dungeon. They were usually only found in C-level dungeons. When examining it, Jinwoo realized someone had been raising the hyenas. They were deliberately used as guard dogs by higher-level beings. Soon, those beings swarmed the assault team, advancing in groups and targeting the rear line. Magical attacks were ineffective against them. Mages could only hold them back for a few seconds. Physical attacks didn't do much either because of their high defense. As a result, many assault team members were injured, and the healers were overwhelmed. As an outsider, Jinwoo had no right to interfere, but he couldn't let them get slaughtered. So, he secretly weakened the enemies using his stealth skill.
B 級のメンバーがどうにかできる相手じゃない。みんな死なないでくれ。動かないで。すぐに直すから。
He injured them one by one so the assault team could defeat them more easily. Thanks to Jinwoo, the assault team rallied and survived without a single casualty. However, some people noticed something strange. Sun felt that the enemies suddenly slowed down, as if someone was helping him. Meanwhile, Jinwoo silently picked up his bag and acted like nothing had happened. But one of the mages realized he had just used stealth magic. This place was far too dangerous for them. Because of that, they suggested retreating and calling in Gina's main assault team. Sun Kuan understood how it must feel for Sun Ki-hun as the captain to face such a situation. Although it was a difficult decision, he thought they really had to fall back for now. Sun Ki-hun still had the will to fight, but as a wise leader, he decided to retreat. Unfortunately, as they were about to exit the dungeon, they discovered a barrier covering the gate. It seemed there was a creature inside the dungeon capable of using high-level magic. That's why retreating was the right choice. The magic users tried to destroy the barrier, but instead of breaking it, they were hit by a painful curse spell. Sun Ki-hun ordered the healer to treat them, but the team didn't respond. They were too focused on the large number of enemies ahead. When Sun Ki-hun approached, the enemy leader shouted in his native language, and then in human language, the orc identified himself as Kargalgan and said he wanted to meet them. Kargalgan claimed he was a high priest of the noble Razok race. He offered them two options: die at the hands of his army or come to see him. Realizing they wouldn't win, Sun Ki-hun chose to meet him. Meanwhile, outside the portal, Cha Hae-in came to see Jinwoo. Even though it was her day off, she was still curious and wanted to talk to him. She was informed by the mining guild leader that Jinwoo had just entered the portal as a porter. Because his actions seemed suspicious, she wanted to go in and check. However, to enter the portal, she needed a weapon. Since there were no spare weapons, the guild leader lent her a mining tool. Cha Hae-in had considered entering empty-handed, but decided it was better to bring something than go in with nothing. Inside the dungeon, Jin-woo and the assault team stood before a massive enemy army. With that many enemies, they could easily destroy a city if they escaped the dungeon. Even so, Ki-hun was still thinking of a way to close the dungeon. He still felt responsible to defeat the dungeon boss. While releasing a powerful intimidating aura, the boss explained his reason for bringing them there. He considered them entertainment, meant to be killed one by one for his soldiers' amusement. Unwilling to accept that, Ki-hun immediately gave the order to attack. But all his members were frozen with fear and wouldn't move. Left with no choice, Ki-hun charged in alone, and was tortured by the boss with powerful gravity magic.
Hunters のダンジョンです。僕は関与すべきじゃない。危機に陥っています。
Before Ki-hun was slammed down again by the gravity spell, Jin-woo jumped into action to save him. With the assault team now in serious danger, Jin-woo asked Ki-hun if he would hand over all the monsters to him. After getting permission, Jin-woo prepared to fight. He summoned all of his shadow soldiers to defeat the enemies. Outside the portal, the investigation team arrived to monitor the situation. Song Jin-woo realized something was strange about the portal. Jin-chul immediately ordered them to remeasure the magical power. It turned out to be an A-rank portal with magical power nearing S-rank. Back inside, Cha Hae-in saw a group of defeated monsters. Although unsure how they were taken down, she knew she had to hurry to the boss room to help the assault team. However, it seemed like they no longer needed her help, as Jin-woo had already revealed his true power, drastically increasing their chance of victory. With incredible fighting power, the shadow soldiers turned the tide of battle and wiped out the enemy forces.
悪魔の城を経ている。信じられない。俺ですら召喚できて似たな魔力が。代表を見てるみたいだ。こんなに強い人。歩兵たちは B 級ハンター程度か。破壊され。
Jin-woo himself joined the fight, moving so fast that the assault team thought his fighting style resembled Cha Hae-in's. Even though Jin-woo had the upper hand in strength, the dungeon boss believed his army was only decoration. With his magic power, he could keep destroying them until Jin-woo ran out of mana. But Jin-woo showed he could handle that minor problem. As a necromancer, he could revive the orcs into shadow soldiers. Sooner or later, even the dungeon boss would become one of his shadows. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Choi was preparing to deploy reinforcements to the portal in case the worst happened. He might even have to ask another guild for help. After fighting in the demon castle, Jin-woo's shadow army had grown much stronger. They slaughtered the enemy troops and crushed all of the generals.
この衛兵はうちんとこの方が優秀だな。俺たちも加勢しよう。ああ。観客は舞台に上がるもの。
Seeing an opportunity to win, the Hunter Association's assault team intended to help, but the boss immediately immobilized them with a curse spell. To silence Jin-woo's arrogance, the monster tried to curse him too, but it failed. Poison and curses didn't work on him. In return, Jin-woo destroyed the glowing crystal that the boss always relied on for magic. Not long after, Cha Hae-in arrived in the boss room. Seeing so many shadow soldiers made her wonder how the situation had turned out like this. Honestly, the assault team didn't understand it either. They could only watch from a distance. Then, the dungeon boss used a spell to turn his body into a giant. But that only made it easier for Jin-woo to wound him. The boss suddenly cast an area spell, as his sword slashes were ineffective.
でかくなればその分狙いを定めやすくなる。護衛なしに暗殺系の奇襲を防げるわけないだろう。 やはり探検ではダメか。なら
Jinwoo then used a chain to bind him. Once he was tied up, Jinwoo pulled with all his strength and brought the enemy down. The investigation division had just arrived in the boss room, completely shocked by what they witnessed. Cha-haen felt the same way. To her, Jinwoo seemed like a top-class fighter who could also use summoning magic. Facing the boss, Jinwoo asserted that when a mage loses their guardian, the battle is already over. In the end, the mage was defeated by his own former guard, now a shadow soldier. Even though the boss had been defeated, Jinwoo felt it wouldn't be right to loot materials, but reviving him might be okay. After reviving him, Jinwoo named him Kiba. His rank was Elite Knight, truly worthy of a shadow taken from an A-rank dungeon boss. Because he was too absorbed in reviving shadows, Jinwoo didn't realize people were watching him. Luckily, the investigation team acted quickly. Jinchul asked them to keep this a secret, as information about Song Jinwoo was top classified. Afterward, Jinwoo left, escorted by Cha-haen, who was still curious about him, so she didn't get a chance to talk.
では参りましょうか。
副代表。はい。なんで私変に思われ